The easiest way to success is the hard way. That is the truth most people refuse to accept. Everyone wants success to come quickly. They want shortcuts. They want to bypass the struggle. They want to find a way to win without having to go through the pain of losing first. But that is not how success works. The people who rise to the top, the ones who achieve greatness, the ones who build something meaningful, they all have one thing in common. They took the hard way. They embraced the struggle. They leaned into the discomfort. And because of that, they became stronger, smarter, and more capable than those who avoided it. Most people waste years of their lives searching for the easy way. They jump from one strategy to the next. They chase quick wins. They look for secrets, for hacks, for ways to avoid the hard work. And every time they fail, they convince themselves that they just need to find a better strategy. But the truth is, there is no easy strategy. There is no secret formula. There is no shortcut. The hard way is the easy way, because the hard way works. It is the path that builds resilience, that sharpens your skills, that forces you to grow into the person capable of sustaining success. The problem is that most people want success without sacrifice. They want the results without the process. They want the reward without the pain. But it does not work that way. Success is not about luck. It's not about talent. It is about becoming the kind of person who can handle success. And you do that by going through the hard way, by facing challenges, by enduring setbacks, by showing up every day, even when it is uncomfortable. The hard way forces you to grow. It removes weakness. It sharpens your thinking. It builds your confidence, and that is why it works. Most people quit too soon. They give up at the first sign of difficulty because they think difficulty means something is wrong. But difficulty is not a sign that you are off track. It is a sign that you are on the right path. The hard way feels hard because it is breaking down old habits, eliminating weak thinking, and replacing it with strength. That discomfort you feel when you are struggling, that is growth. That is progress. That is the process of becoming someone capable of sustaining success. The truth is, most people are not willing to embrace that process. They want to win, but they are not willing to endure the necessary losses along the way. They want to be great, but they are not willing to be bad first. They want to master their craft, but they are not willing to be uncomfortable while they learn. And that is why so few succeed. The people who rise to the top are not always the most talented. They are not always the smartest. They are simply the ones who refused to quit when things got hard. They stayed focused. They endured the process. And because of that, they became the kind of person who could handle the weight of success. And that is why the hard way is the easy way. Because once you build that strength, once you sharpen that discipline, once you develop that level of resilience, success becomes inevitable. Success becomes easy because you went through the hard way. You stop being controlled by fear. You stop hesitating. You stop doubting yourself. You execute with confidence, with clarity, with precision, because you have already faced the hard part. You have already proven to yourself that you can handle whatever comes next. That is why the people who succeed in life are not the ones who tried to avoid struggle. They are the ones who ran toward it. They leaned into the hard way. They faced the pressure head on. And because of that, they came out stronger on the other side. The hard way is not the obstacle. It is the path. And once you understand that, once you commit to taking the hard way and refuse to quit until you get what you want, there is nothing that can stop you. Success is not complicated. It is not mysterious. It is not reserved for a special group of people who are born with some hidden advantage. Success comes down to one thing: your willingness to endure the process. The hard way works because it transforms you into someone who is capable of sustaining success. Most people do not fail because they are incapable. They fail because they are unwilling to push through the discomfort required to become the version of themselves who can succeed. The reason the hard way feels hard is because it requires you to confront yourself. It requires you to face your weaknesses, to challenge your limiting beliefs, to push through fear and discomfort. Most people avoid that because it is uncomfortable. They do not want to deal with failure. They do not want to sit with self-doubt. They do not want to struggle in front of others. But the people who succeed are the ones who do not run from that discomfort. They face it head on, and they keep going, even when it feels like nothing is working. And that is where most people get stuck. They think the discomfort is a sign that something is wrong. They assume that if they were on the right path, it would feel easier. But that is not how it works. The hard way feels hard because it is working. It is breaking down old habits and mental patterns that are keeping you stuck. It is forcing you to think differently, to act differently, to develop new skills. That discomfort is a sign that you are growing. And most people quit right before the breakthrough because they mistake that discomfort for failure. This is why the hard way is the fastest way to success. Because when you lean into discomfort, you accelerate your growth. You eliminate weakness. You develop skills faster. You build resilience. Most people waste years avoiding discomfort, trying to find the easy way. But the people who succeed are the ones who face the hard part early. They fail fast. They adjust quickly. And because of that, they compress the time it takes to succeed. Most people are stuck in a cycle of hesitation and avoidance. They start working toward a goal, and as soon as they hit resistance, they stop. They look for an easier way. They convince themselves that they need more information, more preparation, more time. And that is why they stay stuck. They are constantly starting and stopping, constantly switching directions, constantly restarting the process instead of staying the course. The hard way works because it forces you to stay consistent, even when you do not feel like it. It forces you to build the discipline to keep going, even when the results are not showing yet. This is why the most successful people in the world are not necessarily the most talented. They are the most disciplined. Talent might give you a head start, but it will not sustain you when things get difficult. Discipline is what allows you to keep going when talent is no longer enough. And the only way to develop that kind of discipline is to go through the hard way. It is to wake up early when you do not feel like it. It is to keep working when no one is watching. It is to push forward even when the progress is invisible. Most people think discipline is about motivation. It is not. Motivation is unreliable. Motivation comes and goes. The hard way works because it forces you to develop a system that operates independently of motivation. It forces you to create habits and routines that keep you on track, even when you do not feel inspired. Most people give up because they rely on motivation to keep them going. The people who succeed have trained themselves to act based on commitment, not emotion. And that is why the hard way creates confidence. Most people lack confidence because they have never proven to themselves that they can handle difficulty. They give up too quickly. They stop when it gets hard. And because of that, they reinforce the belief that they are not capable. But the people who succeed have built their confidence through action. They have gone through the hard way. They have failed and recovered. They have struggled and come out stronger. And because of that, they trust themselves. They know that no matter what happens, they can handle it. Confidence is not something you are born with. It is something you earn through repetition. Every time you push through discomfort, you are proving to yourself that you can handle it. Every time you face a setback and get back up, you are reinforcing the belief that you are capable. Most people never build this kind of confidence because they quit too early. They never push through the hard part. They never stay long enough to see the growth. And that is why they stay stuck. The hard way forces you to develop mental toughness. Most people are too fragile to succeed because they have never trained themselves to handle adversity. They break down at the first sign of struggle. They lose focus when things do not go as planned. They let emotions control them. But the people who succeed are mentally sharp because they have been through the hard way. They have learned how to stay calm under pressure. They have trained themselves to focus even when they feel overwhelmed. And that is why they win. This is why success eventually becomes easy for those who take the hard way. Once you have developed that kind of mental strength, once you have built that level of confidence and discipline, success becomes a natural byproduct of who you have become. The hard way works because it transforms you into the kind of person who succeeds naturally. It builds you from the inside out. It makes you unstoppable. It makes you someone who no longer struggles with self-doubt, hesitation, or fear. You reach a point where success is no longer a question of if, it is only a question of when. The hard way works because it teaches you how to handle pressure. Most people crumble under pressure because they have never trained themselves to operate when the stakes are high. They break down mentally when things do not go as planned. They let stress dictate their actions. They let fear paralyze them. But the people who succeed are the ones who have gone through enough difficult situations that pressure no longer affects them. They have learned how to stay composed when everything is falling apart. They have trained themselves to remain focused even when the environment is chaotic. And that is why they outperform everyone else. Pressure is unavoidable. If you are aiming for a higher level of success, you will face resistance. You will face challenges. You will have to make tough decisions under difficult circumstances. The hard way works because it forces you to face that pressure early. It puts you in situations where you have to think clearly under stress. It challenges you to stay focused when your emotions are telling you to quit. And the more you face that kind of pressure, the more you develop the ability to handle it without losing control. Most people avoid pressure because it feels uncomfortable. They think that stress is a sign that something is wrong. But pressure is not the enemy. It is the training ground. When you put yourself in difficult situations repeatedly, your mind adapts. Your nervous system adjusts. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once triggered anxiety becomes routine. That is why the hard way becomes the easy way, because it recalibrates your capacity to handle stress. You get to a point where things that would have broken you before are now just part of your day-to-day life. And this is why successful people are not controlled by fear. Most people let fear dictate their actions. They avoid difficult conversations. They stay in jobs they hate because they are afraid to take a risk. They avoid putting themselves in situations where they might fail. But the people who succeed have trained themselves to act in spite of fear. They have learned that fear is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that they are stepping into growth. The hard way works because it forces you to confront fear so often that you stop fearing it. You stop hesitating. You stop overthinking. You just act. And this is what gives you an edge. Most people hesitate because they are worried about failing. They are worried about looking foolish. They are worried about making the wrong move. But the hard way conditions you to act quickly. You stop looking for guarantees. You stop needing to know how everything will turn out before you make a move. You become comfortable with uncertainty. And that ability to move forward without hesitation is what separates those who succeed from those who stay stuck. This is why successful people are highly adaptable. The hard way teaches you how to adjust when things do not go as planned. Most people get stuck because they are attached to a certain outcome. They want things to work out exactly as they imagined. And when things start falling apart, they freeze. They get discouraged. But the hard way forces you to stay flexible. It forces you to think on your feet. It forces you to find new solutions when the original plan fails. And that adaptability is why the most successful people are able to keep moving forward no matter what obstacles they face. Most people think they need to have everything figured out before they start. But the hard way teaches you that you will never have all the answers. You learn by doing. You figure things out as you go. You make mistakes. You adjust. You improve. Most people waste years waiting for the right strategy, the right timing, the right conditions. But the people who succeed are the ones who take action, even when the plan is not perfect. They trust themselves to figure things out along the way. And this is why successful people operate with confidence. Confidence is not about having all the answers. Confidence is about knowing that you can handle whatever happens. Confidence comes from experience. It comes from repetition. It comes from going through enough difficult situations that you trust yourself to find a way forward. Most people lack confidence because they have not built that trust with themselves. They give up too quickly. They back down when things get tough. And because of that, they reinforce the belief that they cannot handle difficult situations. But the people who succeed have gone through the hard way so many times that they know they can handle anything. They have faced failure and they survived it. They have taken risks, and even when things did not work out, they adjusted and kept going. They have faced rejection, criticism, and setbacks, and none of it broke them. That experience is what builds confidence. Confidence is not about having the perfect plan. It is about trusting yourself to execute even when the plan fails. This is why successful people recover quickly from failure. Most people let failure break them. They take it personally, they let it define them, but the people who succeed have been through enough failure that it no longer affects them emotionally. They do not see failure as a reflection of their worth. They see it as information. They see it as feedback. They study it, adjust their approach, and keep moving forward. The hard way teaches you how to separate emotion from action. It teaches you how to treat setbacks as learning opportunities instead of personal defeats. Most people never develop this skill because they quit too early. They give up before they have a chance to learn. They assume that failure means they are not good enough, but the hard way forces you to keep going. It trains you to persist. It makes you stay in the game long enough to see the breakthrough. That persistence is why the people who take the hard way eventually pull away from everyone else. While most people are stuck in cycles of starting and quitting, those who stay consistent eventually reach a level where success becomes automatic. And this is why the hard way is the fastest way to success. When you go through the hard way, you accelerate your learning curve. You gain experience faster. You build mental toughness faster. You eliminate weakness faster. Most people are stuck because they are trying to avoid difficulty, but all they are doing is slowing down the process. The hard way works because it compresses time. It forces you to face the challenges early so that you can build the skills and resilience you need to sustain success long term. The hard way is not for everyone. Most people will avoid it. Most people will continue looking for shortcuts. Most people will stay in the cycle of hesitation and quitting. But for those who are willing to take the hard way, for those who are willing to face discomfort, embrace pressure, and stay consistent even when it feels impossible, success is inevitable. The hard way forces you to grow into someone who is built for success. And once you become that person, success becomes effortless. The hard way works because it forces you to become the kind of person who cannot be stopped. Most people are fragile. They break down the moment things get difficult. They hesitate when they face resistance. They complain when things do not go as planned. But the people who succeed have trained themselves to be mentally and emotionally bulletproof. They have gone through enough difficult situations that nothing shakes them anymore. They have built a level of inner strength that allows them to remain composed no matter what happens. Most people react emotionally when things go wrong. They panic, they complain, they start questioning themselves. But the people who succeed have trained themselves to separate emotion from action. They understand that problems are part of the process. They do not waste time feeling sorry for themselves when things go wrong. They focus immediately on finding a solution. They do not spiral into negativity. They channel their energy into action. That level of mental control is what allows them to keep moving forward when others are stuck in frustration and doubt. This is why successful people are so focused. Most people are distracted. They start working toward a goal, and as soon as it gets difficult, they shift their attention to something else. They convince themselves that they need a new strategy, a different plan, a better approach. But the people who succeed understand that success is not about finding the perfect strategy. It is about staying consistent long enough to allow the process to work. The hard way works because it forces you to stop chasing quick fixes and commit fully to the process. Most people never succeed because they are too easily distracted. They are always looking for the next best thing. They start working toward a goal, and as soon as they face a challenge, they start questioning the plan. They convince themselves that if they just switch strategies, things will get easier. But the truth is, the discomfort you feel when things get hard is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. It is a sign that you are growing. The hard way works because it forces you to stay the course, even when it feels uncomfortable. It forces you to keep going, even when it feels like nothing is working. And that is why it produces long-term success. Most people lack the ability to delay gratification. They want results immediately. They want to see progress right away. But the hard way works because it teaches you to separate effort from outcome. It teaches you to focus on the work, not the results. Most people quit because they are too focused on immediate rewards. They want to see instant progress. And when they do not, they get discouraged. But the people who succeed have trained themselves to stay focused on the process, even when the results are invisible. They know that progress is happening beneath the surface, even when it is not showing yet. This is why the hard way creates long-term success. Most people are chasing short-term wins. They want to lose weight fast. They want to make money fast. They want to build a business quickly. But the hard way works because it forces you to build a solid foundation. It forces you to master the fundamentals. It forces you to develop habits and systems that allow you to sustain success over time. Most people want shortcuts because they are not willing to endure the time and effort required to build something real. But the hard way works because it builds strength that lasts. Most people are not willing to endure the boredom that comes with mastery. Success is not about doing extraordinary things. It is about doing the ordinary things with consistency and precision. The hard way works because it forces you to stay disciplined even when the process becomes repetitive. It teaches you how to show up every day even when you do not feel like it. It trains you to stay consistent even when you are not seeing immediate results. That level of consistency is what separates the successful from the average. Most people give up when things get boring. The people who succeed are the ones who keep going even when the excitement fades. And this is why successful people have a different relationship with discomfort. Most people avoid discomfort. They stay in their comfort zones. They avoid situations that challenge them. But the people who succeed understand that discomfort is the price of growth. They know that the hard way is hard on purpose because that is what creates strength. Every time you push through discomfort, you are building mental and emotional resilience. Every time you keep going when it would be easier to quit, you are reinforcing the belief that you can handle anything. This is why successful people are so mentally tough. They have been through enough difficult situations that they no longer fear adversity. They have trained themselves to operate under pressure. They have learned how to keep their focus sharp even when things are falling apart. That level of mental toughness is not natural. It is earned. It is the result of going through the hard way repeatedly until you reach a point where pressure no longer affects you. Most people never reach this level because they quit too soon. They back down the moment things get uncomfortable. But the people who succeed are the ones who keep going. And this is why successful people are so decisive. Most people hesitate because they are afraid of making the wrong decision. They overthink. They wait for more information. They delay action because they want certainty. But the people who succeed have trained themselves to act quickly. They know that overthinking is a form of self-sabotage. They understand that most decisions can be adjusted along the way. They are not afraid of making mistakes because they know they can recover. And that confidence comes from experience, from going through the hard way so many times that they trust themselves to handle whatever happens next. This is why successful people do not seek perfection. Most people are stuck because they are waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect opportunity. But the people who succeed understand that perfection is an illusion. They know that waiting for the perfect moment is just an excuse for not taking action. They understand that success comes from starting, not from waiting. The hard way teaches you how to take action, even when the plan's not perfect. It teaches you how to adapt and adjust as you go. And that ability to move forward without hesitation is why successful people achieve more than everyone else. And this is why success eventually becomes effortless. Once you have built the discipline to stay consistent, the mental toughness to handle pressure, the confidence to trust yourself, and the ability to make decisions quickly, success becomes automatic. You no longer have to force yourself to do the work because it becomes part of who you are. The hard way works because it transforms you at a core level. You no longer need motivation to succeed because you have built the habits and mindset that make success inevitable. Most people will never reach this level because they are not willing to endure the discomfort required to get there. But for those who are willing to go through the hard way, success becomes second nature. The hard way works because it forces you to take full ownership of your life. Most people live in reaction mode. They blame other people for their problems. They complain about circumstances they cannot control. They allow external events to dictate how they feel and how they perform. But the people who succeed have made a decision that they will take full responsibility for everything in their lives. They refuse to blame anyone else. They refuse to make excuses. They understand that success is not about what happens to you. It is about how you respond to what happens. Most people give up control of their lives without even realizing it. They blame their boss for why they are not advancing in their career. They blame the economy for why they are not making more money. They blame their parents for why they have limiting beliefs. But the people who succeed have trained themselves to take ownership even when it is not their fault. They understand that responsibility is not about blame. It is about control. The moment you take responsibility for your life, you take back control. You cannot control everything that happens, but you can always control how you respond. That is why the hard way works. It teaches you how to maintain control, even in difficult circumstances. And this is why successful people are so focused on solutions. Most people focus on problems. They dwell on what is going wrong. They waste mental energy complaining about things they cannot control. But the people who succeed train themselves to shift their focus to solutions. They ask themselves, what can I control? What action can I take right now to improve this situation? The hard way works because it forces you to stop wasting energy on things you cannot control and focus exclusively on what you can control. Most people get stuck because they give their energy to the wrong things. They complain about the weather. They complain about the government. They complain about other people. But none of that moves them forward. Successful people have trained themselves to direct all their energy toward things that matter. They focus on their work. They focus on improving themselves. They focus on executing at a high level. And because they eliminate mental clutter, they create the kind of momentum that most people never experience. And this is why successful people are not easily distracted. Most people are constantly pulled off course by distractions. They are addicted to social media. They waste hours consuming content that does nothing to move them closer to their goals. They let other people's opinions influence their decisions. But the people who succeed protect their focus with intensity. They eliminate distractions. They guard their time. They create boundaries. They know that success requires focused effort, and they are not willing to let anything steal their attention. Most people are overstimulated. Their minds are cluttered with noise. Their attention is scattered. But the people who succeed have learned how to create mental clarity. They have trained themselves to disconnect from distractions. They know how to sit with their thoughts. They know how to focus deeply on their work without interruption. And that ability to maintain deep focus for extended periods of time is why they outperform everyone else. The hard way works because it forces you to eliminate mental clutter and focus on what matters most. This is why successful people are not emotionally reactive. Most people let their emotions control them. If they feel tired, they do not work. If they feel discouraged, they give up. If they feel overwhelmed, they shut down. But the people who succeed have learned how to separate emotion from action. They have trained themselves to act based on their commitments, not their feelings. The hard way works because it forces you to keep going, even when you do not feel like it. It forces you to stay committed, even when you are tired, discouraged, or frustrated. And that consistency is why they win. Most people are inconsistent because they rely on motivation. They work hard when they feel inspired, but they slack off when they feel tired. But the people who succeed have developed the ability to stay consistent even when motivation is low. They have created habits and systems that keep them on track. The hard way works because it forces you to develop that kind of consistency. It forces you to take action even when you are not inspired. And over time, that consistency compounds into massive results. And this is why successful people do not need external validation. Most people seek approval from others. They want to be liked. They want to be accepted. And because of that, they hesitate to make bold moves. They hold back because they are afraid of what other people will think. But the people who succeed have trained themselves to stop seeking external validation. They trust themselves. They are not worried about being judged. They are not worried about fitting in. They are focused entirely on executing at the highest level possible. The hard way works because it teaches you how to stop caring about what other people think. It forces you to trust your own judgment and take action based on your own internal compass. This is why successful people are not controlled by fear. Most people are afraid of failure. They are afraid of embarrassment. They are afraid of rejection. But the people who succeed have been through enough difficult situations that fear no longer stops them. They have failed and recovered so many times that they know they can handle it. The hard way works because it desensitizes you to fear. It teaches you that failure is not permanent. It teaches you that rejection is not personal. And once you stop being controlled by fear, you become dangerous because there is nothing left to stop you. Most people are paralyzed by overthinking. They spend too much time analyzing, planning, and preparing. But the people who succeed are action-oriented. They make decisions quickly. They execute immediately. They adjust as they go. The hard way works because it teaches you how to make decisions under pressure. It teaches you how to trust your instincts. It teaches you how to act without needing all the answers up front. Most people are stuck in analysis paralysis. But the people who succeed are the ones who make decisions quickly and adjust along the way. And this is why successful people keep winning. Once you have gone through the hard way enough times, you reach a point where nothing phases you anymore. You are not controlled by emotions. You are not distracted by noise. You're not worried about failing. You have built the kind of mental and emotional strength that allows you to operate at a high level under any circumstances. The hard way works because it builds that level of strength. It sharpens your focus. It strengthens your discipline. It makes you someone who cannot be broken. And that is why success eventually becomes easy. Most people will never reach this level because they are not willing to endure the discomfort required to get there. But for those who are willing to commit fully, for those who are willing to take the hard way, there's no limit to what they can achieve. The hard way forces you to grow. It transforms you into someone who operates at the highest level. And once you reach that level, success becomes automatic. You no longer have to chase it. It starts chasing you. The hard way works because it transforms you into someone who thrives under any circumstance. Most people crumble when things do not go as planned. They freeze when faced with uncertainty. They hesitate when conditions are not perfect. But the people who succeed have trained themselves to adapt. They know that success does not come from perfect conditions. It comes from the ability to adjust and keep moving forward when things fall apart. And that level of adaptability is only built through the hard way. Most people fail because they are too rigid. They create a plan, and when that plan falls apart, they give up. They assume that if things are not going according to plan, success is no longer possible. But the people who succeed are not attached to a specific plan. They are attached to the outcome. They know that there are multiple ways to win. They are not limited by strategy. If one approach fails, they find another way. If one door closes, they open another. The hard way works because it teaches you how to think on your feet. It teaches you how to pivot without losing momentum. It teaches you how to keep your eye on the target even when the path to get there changes. And that is why successful people do not dwell on setbacks. Most people let failure become an identity. They take it personally. They allow it to create doubt. They tell themselves, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I should stop. But the people who succeed have trained themselves to see failure as part of the process. They study it, extract the lesson, and move forward. They understand that setbacks are not evidence of weakness. They are opportunities to refine their strategy. The hard way works because it desensitizes you to failure. It makes you fearless. And this is why successful people are so consistent. Most people operate in cycles. They start strong. But the moment they hit resistance, they slow down. They lose motivation. They start questioning themselves. But the people who succeed have developed a level of mental discipline that allows them to keep moving forward regardless of how they feel. They execute even when they are tired. They stay consistent even when the results are not showing yet. They stay focused even when things are not going their way. And that consistency compounds over time. Most people fail because they stop too soon. The people who succeed are the ones who keep going. Most people quit when they hit resistance because they assume that resistance is a sign they are on the wrong path. But resistance is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that you are breaking through. The hard way works because it teaches you how to keep going when others stop. It builds the kind of resilience that allows you to keep pushing forward when things get hard. And that ability to push through discomfort is why the people who take the hard way always pull ahead in the long run. And this is why successful people are not controlled by motivation. Most people rely on motivation to keep them going. They work hard when they feel inspired. But as soon as that inspiration fades, they slow down. But the people who succeed have learned how to operate independently of motivation. They have created systems that keep them consistent. They have trained themselves to take action based on their commitments, not their emotions. The hard way works because it forces you to create a system that operates automatically. You reach a point where success is no longer dependent on how you feel. It becomes automatic because you have conditioned yourself to act consistently. This is why successful people are so efficient. Most people waste time overthinking, overplanning, and overanalyzing. They spend too much time preparing and not enough time executing. But the people who succeed have learned how to simplify the process. They do not wait for all the answers before they start. They take action, gather feedback, and adjust along the way. The hard way works because it eliminates wasted motion. It teaches you how to move quickly and efficiently. It forces you to stop overthinking and start executing. And this is why successful people operate with speed. Most people hesitate. They delay action because they want certainty. They want to know exactly how things will turn out before they make a move. But the people who succeed have learned how to take action quickly. They know that overthinking is a form of self-sabotage. They understand that most decisions can be adjusted along the way. The hard way works because it teaches you how to make decisions without hesitation. It teaches you how to trust yourself, even when you do not have all the answers. That level of decisiveness is why successful people achieve more in a year than most people achieve in a lifetime. And that is why successful people are relentless. Most people have limits. They have a threshold for how much discomfort they are willing to tolerate. They work hard for a while, but once they reach a certain level of discomfort, they stop. But the people who succeed have trained themselves to push through that threshold. They do not stop when it gets hard. They increase their intensity. They push harder when most people would quit. The hard way works because it expands your capacity for effort. It raises your threshold for discomfort. It conditions you to keep going long after most people would have given up. Most people are limited by how much discomfort they are willing to endure. They will work hard as long as it is not painful. They will stay consistent as long as they are seeing results. But the people who succeed are the ones who have trained themselves to keep working even when it hurts. They know that pain is temporary, but quitting is permanent. They understand that discomfort is the price of success. And because they have trained themselves to embrace that discomfort, they have developed a level of endurance that allows them to outlast everyone else. And that is why successful people eventually separate themselves from the rest. Most people never break through because they stop when it gets hard. They quit when the excitement fades. They give up when progress slows down. But the people who succeed have trained themselves to push past that barrier. They have learned that the biggest breakthroughs happen after the hardest moments. They have learned that the discomfort they feel when things get hard is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that they are close to the next level. And this is why the hard way eventually becomes the easy way. Once you have built that level of strength, once you have conditioned yourself to thrive under pressure, once you have trained yourself to stay consistent, regardless of how you feel, success becomes automatic. You reach a point where you no longer struggle with motivation. You no longer hesitate when it gets hard. You no longer second guess yourself when things are not going as planned. You have built the kind of mental and emotional toughness that allows you to succeed effortlessly. Most people will never reach this level because they are not willing to go through the hard way. But for those who are willing to push through, for those who are willing to endure the process, success becomes inevitable. The easiest way to success is the hard way. That is the truth most people will never accept. They will spend their lives searching for shortcuts. They will waste years trying to avoid discomfort. They will look for easier strategies, faster methods, and simpler solutions. And because of that, they will stay stuck. They will never develop the strength, the resilience, or the confidence required to sustain success. They will remain controlled by fear, hesitation, and self-doubt. They will never push themselves far enough to see what they are truly capable of. And that is why most people will never succeed. But for those who are willing to take the hard way, for those who are willing to face discomfort, embrace pressure, and stay consistent even when it feels impossible, there is no limit to what they can achieve. The hard way works because it transforms you. It forces you to eliminate weakness. It sharpens your thinking. It strengthens your discipline. It builds the kind of mental and emotional toughness that allows you to thrive under any circumstance. Once you have gone through the hard way, you reach a point where success becomes automatic. It no longer feels difficult because you have built the internal strength to handle any challenge. Most people are stuck because they are trying to avoid discomfort. But success requires discomfort. It requires struggle. It requires sacrifice. The hard way works because it teaches you how to push through that struggle. It teaches you how to stay focused when you are tired. It teaches you how to keep moving forward when you feel like quitting. And that ability to push through resistance is what separates those who succeed from those who do not. The truth is, most people will not take the hard way. They will keep looking for shortcuts. They will keep convincing themselves that success should feel easier. But the few who are willing to face the struggle head on, the few who are willing to endure the process, to build strength through failure, to stay consistent, even when it is uncomfortable, those are the ones who will rise to the top. Success is not about luck. It is not about talent. It is about the willingness to go through the hard way and come out stronger on the other side.